do you mainly do in Ghana?
To mainly do in Ghana, well, every day we get up and we usually take a trotro, which is like a little van full of people, rickety van, to the library. And when we get there, we would have maybe a craft for the kids, or an activity, reading activity, or a poem to teach them. And I would usually work with the children about ages of 6 to maybe 8 or 9. And Callie, who came with me, she worked with the little ones, like 3 to 6 kind of thing. And we would teach them maybe different songs, like from camp, or we would teach them games, or read them books. So we worked at the library. I was thinking, all through my school year, I would be thinking of, is this a good activity for the library? And I would sort of set it aside so that when I got there, I had some really good teaching ideas, and that's what I did.
What inspired you to work in Ghana?
Well, I was first inspired to work in Ghana by my friend Alice O'Tupuri, who was a retired teacher. And she would come back to Jockville School. And she'd be in Canada every year. She'd be in Canada for 6 months, and she'd be in her home country, Ghana, for 6 months. And she would come back and show us pictures of her work with the kids there, and she would show us how she was teaching children to read, and how she was collecting toys and teaching the children to play, because they didn't even know how to play because they didn't have any toys and they had no opportunity. And so every year she would come back, and this happened maybe 2 or 3 years, and then finally I said, you know, Alice, I'm going to come and help you. I'm a teacher, obviously, and Roberto is a doctor, and we have 2 teenagers and 1 preteen, actually probably the age of just of you and Emma and David.
Yeah.
You're 11. How old are you now?
11.
Yeah. Callie was 11, pretty sure. What grade are you in?
6.
6, yeah. 5 or 6, yeah. Anyway, I said, we're going to help you. So she thought of a plan how to get us to Ghana, and we went. So she was the person that started me off. I was inspired by her.
Have you ever been somewhere in Ghana that was involved in child labor?
Well, I don't know if I would say child labor per se, but I have seen a few examples. When we were in the fishing village in a little place called Goy, there was a little boy who had something wrong with his eyes. They were very, very, very puffy, and they were just like slits. And someone who we were with said, oh, his eyes are like that because he used to have the job of going down into the salt water and cutting the nets and untangling the nets if they were caught on something at the bottom of the ocean. So he said that's why this boy has those problems seeing. So that's sort of and apparently they don't have that anymore in Canada. There are laws against that. So that would be one example of child labor. And then we also saw maybe you would have a person that was maybe blind, or maybe had lost a limb, usually an older person, would be led around by a young boy and begging, you know. So even though they assured us that the boy was in school, almost all the time when you would see these beggars come around with a young person, you would wonder if they were in school, you know.
What? Are all your trips in Ghana for the same cause, or is it a variety?
Well, it's all they have all been to get kids excited about reading and showing them books and poetry and songs and opening up their world a little bit and letting them have fun while they're learning, because really in the schools they may have 60 children in one class.
Really?
And with backless benches
And to think here we only have 12.
really, I know. And even in the public schools, you know, they have maybe in grade 1 16 kids or 17 kids, and yeah. So they don't have a lot of fun when they go to school. And if they're late, it is often,
They get in trouble?
yeah, the teacher has a twig, you know.
They get spanked?
They get caned, yeah. I was really shocked when I saw that. Yeah. Now, I have read in the newspapers there in Ghana that people are starting to speak out about that. But, you know, in the public schools, when there's a lot of kids and teachers are not well trained and they get impatient, nobody really has a lot of fun. They just, yeah. So I just wanted to bring in a bit of fun and inspire some new ideas. You know, so maybe someone will take that and grow up and read a lot and become interested in learning and maybe interested in becoming a teacher, or maybe inspire others to learn. So the other thing that we did, I'll just tell you quickly, is we taught grown adults to read, which is,
Really?
yes, they had literacy classes Tuesday and Thursday mornings. And so there were people that were in their 20s and their 30s. There was even a man in, like, I think he was probably a grandfather, who had never read before. So trying to show them different ways of
Learning how to
teaching
read.
Yeah, teaching reading and different books, and they do have access to books. But you know what? The Kathy Knowles Library started from just Kathy Knowles, who came from Canada, and go out maybe once a day in the back garden of her house and read to her own kids, and then she would just see little faces behind the fence, and she invited them in, and because they had never heard a book being read, because it was just not really in their culture to have books and to in their homes and to be read books. Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
Because in 1957, when Ghana was first a free country and a new country, the president was very, very much in support of education. His name was Kwame Nkrumah. But unfortunately, as the years went by, he became not a very good leader, and other people tried to take his place, and the situation was very violent. So all the people who had been teachers, trained as doctors and engineers and lawyers, they all moved out of Ghana. Yeah, it was called the brain drain. And in the 1970s and 80s, like my friend Alice. And so they didn't have anybody to teach their kids. And that's why there's such a very high level of illiteracy. People don't know how to read. And now people like Alice are coming back, and people like Kathy Knowles are trying to
Get it back.
Yeah. So
bottles.
Really?
And they grind them up, and then they melt them.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then somebody sits at the end and paints each one. What does it say there? Please. Well, that's a good one. So there you go.
bottles.
What
They go
kind of
behind,
bottles?
Just wine bottles and beer bottles. And they go behind the fancy restaurants and the embassies and stuff. And they gather all the bottles, and then they sort them in colors, and then they grind them up, and they put the powder into molds, and then they put them in like big pizza ovens outside, and it melts.
And then they
can
make stuff.
Then they make beads with it. Yeah. So then, sorry, honey. So then, there's a man at the end of the line who paints on the beads.
Whoa, so these are like hand painted?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So pretty.
And just shows you what you can do from nothing, you know. And I asked the lady, does she need anything? She said, well, there's certain colors I can't get here because bottles don't come.
Yeah.
So she said, some of my friends from Canada bring me pink. She said, bring me pink, so maybe a pink dye, I guess.